In this episode of Brainpower, we're going to take a look at the brand new OpenAI o1 model. Let's go ahead and let's jump in. Hello, friends. It's Josh. Welcome to Brainpower. Well, typically, I do a hands-on episode or show, and not today. Today is going to be a demonstration of the brand new OpenAI o1 model. So, what's all the hubbub, bub? Like, what is the big deal? Well, it's funny, and having worked with these models now for a couple years, it became obvious that with the foundation models that are out there and the closed models, that or the open models, I should say, that everything's based on probability, right? You're just kind of putting things to chance in regards to the words that you use and the responses that you get back from a large language model. And the analogy I like to use is Daniel Kahneman authored this book, Thinking Fast and Slow. It's a great read. And he describes the human brain as system 1 and system 2. System 1 being the automatic responses that we have. Like when somebody walks into the room, your biases kick in and you try to, figure out who this person is, or fight or flight syndrome, those kinds of things. System 2 is when you really have to pause and think. So if I give you a math problem like 363 times 17, right? And so some of you are like, well, whatever, I'm just not even going to try that. Or some of you may even be attempting to do that in your heads, depending upon your math skills. But the point being is that, system 2 deals with logic, reasoning, thinking through a process, thinking through steps. It's like playing chess, checkers, solving a puzzle. All those things require, deep thought. Well, what does that mean when a large language model gets that type of functionality? And that's what o1 gives us. It gives us the ability to use a model that could think through problems, which is absolutely fascinating. And so today what I'm going to do is illustrate for you some experiments that I went through on this model. And also, I'm going to do something without a net here today. I'm going to attempt to perform a training needs analysis on a document, and I haven't even tried it before. So I haven't even tested it. I got the files queued up. So it should be interesting to see what happens with this. With that, I first want to go in and give you a little bit of background on the model and where things are headed. So OpenAI on September 12th released this model to paid users of the account. So if you have a Plus account, you can get access to the model either through the web interface or the application on your phone. And I've vetted that out. I could access both locations. So enterprise customers, hold tight. Next week, you'll get access to the model. The model itself must take an extreme amount of resources to run because, per OpenAI and this site here, you only get 30 attempts or 30 messages per week. Per week. So I actually started testing before understanding the cap. So hopefully I'll be able to run this new query or this new prompt later. So hang tight. We shall see if that is going to be able to be done. Now, I highly recommend you take a moment and go over to OpenAI's website and check out, some of the background information here on the new models. One of the things that really stands out for me is right here. OpenAI o1 ranks in the 89th percentile on competitive programming questions, paces among the top 500 students in the U.S. in a qualifier for the USA Math Olympiad. Working with GPT 3.5, GPT 4, and 4.0, there has been a gradual increase in the capabilities of math, but honestly, it's been lacking. Well, no more, because the math capabilities in this o1 model, the preview model, are outstanding based upon the tests that I've done. What does that mean? Well, there's going to be a lot of applications around life sciences and math, because the model can now do those things. But when it comes to problem solving and working through data and analytics, this model is really going to shine. All right. So again, take the time, go check out. This is at openai.com/o1, super easy URL, and you can check it out for yourself. All right. So that's that. Now, a little bit of background. So you may have heard the term strawberry, and even before that, the term Q-star. And there's all these rumblings about a new model being created at OpenAI. Well, I believe the origin of that name came from this white paper out of Stanford, and I went ahead and I grabbed the white paper, and it is essentially discussing about how to use chain of thought reasoning within a large language model to get better math and problem solving results coming back. Thus, the Q star or even strawberry name. Now, we don't know for a fact that this paper influenced the current product that we have, but odds are that's part of the reason. And if I go down to this illustration down here, again, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but it pretty much shows you that having the model pause and think, as AI models, again, we don't want to mix human and AI up, but it's supposedly thinking in that moment about the problem. Like, how should I go about doing this? As opposed to answering it right away, which is a very system 1 type response. So now we have a system 2 type response where it's like, whoa, wait a second, let me think about this. Let me analyze how I should go about solving this problem. Then I'm going to solve the problem, right? So it just kind of shows up different, which is pretty wild. Okay, so enough. Let's just jump right in and take a look at the o1 model. Now, for anybody that's watched any of my shows or have seen me speak, there's a smoked potato salad, and it is my control statement. So sure enough, the very first thing that I prompted was, how do I cook a smoked potato salad? My favorite prompt, right? Well, this response from the o1-preview model is spectacular. It is succinct, and I'm going to tell you a little nuance here, and this is what got me. So, I've been doing this prompt for so long that I understand the recipe, because the smoked potato salad is pretty awesome that I make. This is per people that have consumed it, right? And what I've tried techniques, and I've tried different things, including techniques that have been given to me by AI. And what I've found is the best way to cook these potatoes is to actually cut them up, boil them, and then smoke them. But none of the models ever mention that. And I look at that, I'm like, I wonder if that's ever going to come up. I wonder if a model will ever be able to tell me about my technique or, think about it. Well, my goodness. In here, when I go down to preparing potatoes, it says cut them into bite-sized pieces and then boil them. There it is. I mean, I was shocked because, again, this is the first time I've seen the technique that I use as a response coming back from the model. Now, is it by chance? Well, take a look at this. When I go back up, after I sent the prompt, there is a new type of response that comes back. Earlier, I mentioned chain of thought or reasoning. And this is what we have right here. It says it thought about this for 10 seconds. Well, what was it thinking about? Well, I can hit the drop down, and this is what it thought about. It gathered the ingredients. It went in and crafting the dish, getting ready. I'm prepping the potatoes, washing them well, cutting them into bits, pre-cooking the potatoes. That's the step. I haven't seen the pre-cook of the potatoes, and that's really critical. Setting up the grill, mixing the ingredients, serving suggestions. Boom. That's it. That's what it thought about before it even gave me a response down here. Now, just some other little goodies. So I have the ingredients. Ingredients look great. I have the instructions, very clear. It picked the right type of wood. Again, we don't want like a mesquite or like acidic wood when doing this. Everything else looks great. Okay, down below, I love the tips and variations that it gave me. The add-ins, the lighter option, the vegan version even. Food safety, sure, why not? Put it in there. Yeah, this is pretty good. And again, I'm basing that on the advice of cutting those potatoes up and boiling them ahead of time. That's what I do. Pretty cool. Well, let's continue. I ran some additional experiments, and one of the other experiments that I ran is a couple math problems that I just found online. All right, so if it can do math, let's go ahead and check it out. And just to to be clear about this, every math problem that I gave it, these all check out. All right, so and I'm not going to go over all the problems. Okay, just you can scan here and see Michael scores these scores on his first 5 math tests. He wants a 90 average. What must he score in the final math test? Boom. It's the correct answer. All these are correct answers, by the way. David wants to drive to his friend's house, which is 450 miles away, in 6 hours. What's the average speed he has to drive at? Sound familiar, right? Oh, I remember these problems. There it is, 75 miles an hour. Getting it right every single time. One angle of a pentagon's measure is t degrees. The other 4 angles are congruent to one another. Give the measure of one of those angles in the terms of t. And again, it went down. And now, what was interesting about this is that it gave me a result down here, but it wasn't simplified, which was, and I've seen that a couple different times. So I asked it, can that be simplified? Well, it thought about it. And again, there it is. It's thinking. It's breaking down the solution, clarifying simplification, confirming the calculation, breaking down the expression, bump, 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 simplified. It's phenomenal. This is really cool. All right. Here's another one. John and Julie represented West High in a math contest. John outscored Julie by 16 points. As a team, they scored 80. David and Dana represented East High in the same contest. Dana outscored David by 10. As a team, they scored 60. Arrange the 4 students from highest score to lowest. And again, it thought about it. Establishing equations, breaking down equations, determining scores. Hey, Kurt, thanks for your comment. Yeah, so Kurt mentions that it's so cool because the drop down here shows the thinking process. Yeah, and I tell you, get in there, and if you have access to this model, watch what it does from a thinking process. It's incredible, some of these, and I'll show you one in a little bit that is my prompt that I came up with that I use in my courses, and it's going to just blow your doors off. It's pretty spectacular, and that's coming up here in just a moment. All right, so next, and then it goes in and it figures this out. Again, it's the same. It does the correct work here. There's the order: John, Dana, Julie, and David, and that is correct. All right. Okay, so you get it, right? It's doing math. We got it. And I did some more here. And again, all of these are correct. It's pretty spectacular. I want to go in and show you one that I use in my course. And for this one, and the reason why I do this one in my ChatGPT or Gen AI courses is to illustrate that the models cannot do math. It's also a way to show you how to take a comma delimited list of data and put it right in the prompt. Okay. And so in this example, it says identify instructor names, topics, locations from the course evaluation data to analyze their performance. Which instructor performed the best? And I have a comma delimited list of instructors, topics, scores that they received from their students, and locations. All right. And again, typically what happens when I run this prompt with a group, everybody gets John Davis, but John gets a different average. And it's a clear indication that math is not ChatGPT's strong suit. Well, that all has changed. So I give it this prompt and all of this data. Now check this out. It had to think about this for almost a minute. Why? Because it went through all these steps. This is breathtaking. I mean, it went in and broke down this problem, and it even recognized discrepancies and issues with the data. Something I didn't recognize before, but it analyzed and it put it in here. So it parsed through the data, identified the instructors, calculating the average ratings, organizing the data, summarizing it, calculating the ratings, tracking the progress, and then I'll show you in here, right here, I notice a discrepancy in the ratings total. There are 13 entries, but I only counted 12 ratings. Double checking the entries revealed that there was a 4.2 rating that was counted twice, so it actually appeared 3 times. I didn't catch that. Pretty wild. And so at the bottom, what we have here is the data that it extracted, the topics, the locations. Here's the performance analysis. And again, it's doing all the math for our instructors. And then finally, we have the conclusion with John Davis of 479. And that is correct. We also have additional insights down at the bottom here in regards to these instructors and the classes that they're taking and the ratings. This is a superior response. The best response I have seen from a model with this prompt. Okay? All right. So all right. So I'm doing a presentation next week, and I have, a lot of the content ready to rock, but I was really interested in seeing, what's possible. Like if I just went ahead and gave it, my the talk information, what would the model come up with? So I went in, gave it the description, and what it came up with was a really decent presentation with demonstrations and hands-on activities and all the materials and all these things, right? Pretty wild. And then I said, hey, make it better. Like, think about who the audience is and make it even better. So it went in and it gave me all of this great information and ideas that I can use to create this presentation. Now I'll be able to even take this and export it into PowerPoint. I don't want to waste the chat here and say convert to PowerPoint here. I want to hold on to it. So again, really wild. All I did was just upload a session description into the model, and it gave me a whole presentation It gave me demonstrations. It gave me hands-on activities, supplemental information, and so on. Wild. So even though I've mentioned math primarily, by going in and doing these thought exercises, here it just said crafting and enhancing. And the prior one, the chain of thought or reasoning, it goes in and does each of these before it even gives you the response. Grasping quality control, verifying accuracy, integrating human oversight, adhering to ethical guidelines. Wild. Okay. One of the other tests that I do is programming. And the programming test I do is a lot of fun. It is creating a chocolate donut with scalable vector graphics. Again, one of the reasons why I do this particular example is, one, it's fun. And two, for a lot of my attendees of my workshops and webinars, they're not programmers for the most part. So copying and pasting some SVG code in a viewer, it's pretty easy to do. And so, what I have here is create a chocolate donut in SVG code. Now, let me tell you, again, doing this for a year and a half, these donuts, they don't come out very well. Some of them have sprinkles, some of them have frosting, but for the most part, you get a round circle that's brown. That's about it. Well, one of the nuances of the O1 model is that it's better at programming. There is another model that you do have access to, and if I hit the drop down here, so I've been using the o1-preview. This one, I use the O1 Mini. And per OpenAI's documentation, or I should say what was in their blog post on this model, the O1 Mini excels at programming. And so I picked the O1 Mini model for this prompt, and it generated the SVG code. Now, let me go ahead and go up to svgviewer.dev. I'll grab this SVG code, and let me just paste it in here. And there is my donut. Now, again, having run this exercise for over a year and a half, this is the first time I have actually seen the code come back with a gradient and with the sprinkles on the donut also having gradients and having shape. Usually they're rectangular, but it's using ovals here. And so there's a level of sophistication even with this simple prompt. Wild. And so I continued the conversation, and I went back and forth with it on this donut. And there's a couple different versions of it. You can see, again, it utilizes gradients, there's sprinkles. Wild. I even asked it for a 3D version. I'm not going to show you that because it was just, it was just okay. All right. Well, you kind of get the idea that, this model really, really excels. And I highly recommend going in and checking out the capabilities. So now I want to go ahead and finish with one last example. And again, I am doing this without a net. And what I would like to do is go ahead and upload a scenario that contains a couple SME interviews, and then ask the model to do a training needs analysis on it. Now, again, this is not, perfect. Like when you see the original document, there's going to be some issues in regards to the depth of each of these, but the intention is there. Okay. So with that, let me go ahead and show you what I'm working with. So the first thing that I have is this doc of this fictitious company called RoboBurger. And the RoboBurger Express, this is one of those new restaurants where it's all done with robotics, and you go and you put your card in and the robot cooks the food. And there's a single human there to either plate the food or put it in a bag or whatever. It's just to check and make sure the quality is there, right? So that's the setup. And so there could be all kinds of issues. We have non-training issues that are listed here. We have training issues that are listed, like plating techniques and to-go order packaging and things like that, or final touches that a robot can't do. I have a couple different scenarios here that are non-training and training scenarios. And then I finally have a couple SME interviews, either with talking to a manager or talking to associates about what could be happening. Okay. All right. So you get the gist. I have a couple SME interviews, and I have some background in regards to what could be non-technical issues, or I'm sorry, non-training issues and training issues. Okay, got it. That's that. Now, the other document that I have here is a training needs analysis. So this is an explanation of what a training needs analysis is, define organizational goals, define relevant job behaviors, define required knowledge and skills, develop training. It goes on. So there's some additional information in here about performing a training needs analysis. And again, can we make the assumption that this is in the model? Yeah, I can. Odds are that this information about doing a training needs analysis, it's in there. But by going in and giving it guidance ahead of time, the probability of the output adhering to this format goes way up. All right. So, well, let's do it. I'm going to go and I'm going to start a brand new conversation, and I want to verify I'm going to be using the o1-preview model. I'll create a new conversation, and oh, check it out. I'm not allowed to upload any documents just yet, but that's not going to slow me down. Okay, remember, I can still go ahead and paste in here data or information, right? So what I'm going to do is go ahead and say, act as an instructional designer, because I always, you always want to give a role in here if you're doing a certain task, and that's going to increase the probability of any and all words from instructional designer coming back. Act as instructional designer. We're going to perform training needs analysis. All right, so I got that, and I want to go ahead and allow it to. Here are two bits of data. Probably not the right words. The potential issues and how we create a training needs analysis. All right, so what I'm going to do is, because I'm not allowed to upload any documents here. Now, eventually you should be able to. Also, this is not multimodal. This is not multimodal. So in other words, I can't do an image with the o1-preview model. All right. So here we go. I'm going to say this is the potential, because I want to use the same words, issues. And then what I'm going to do is take my Word document. Here it is. And all I'm going to do is take this whole document, copy it, get into the clipboard, and paste it into the prompt. Let me go back. Boom, that's that. Then make a space, and I'm going to grab my text file for the training needs analysis. I'm going to remove the word summary. Don't need that. I'm going to grab all that copy and then paste it right here. Act as an instructional designer. We're going to perform a training needs analysis. Here are 2 bits of data, the potential issues and how we create a training needs analysis. All right, let's go. Now, I'm imagining that it's going to be thinking here for a while. I just gave it a boatload of information. So let's go follow it and see what it's doing here. Wow, okay, so that happened pretty fast. Creating a training needs analysis. Defining the goals. Organizational issues, examining current issues. Let's see if it used any of the SME information. Define organizational goals. Define relevant job behaviors. Okay. Define required knowledge and skills. Okay, it's following the order. Develop training. Now, what's interesting is that the additional recommendations, these were actually coming out of the SME interviews. So those nuanced type conversations or analysis from those conversations are represented down here. All right. So they're in there. And we got an implementation plan based on ADDIE and expected outcomes in the conclusion. Okay, so, it's funny because, you get out of the model what you put into it. And, based upon what I've given it here, which is probably a lackluster front-end analysis or with some SME interviews in it, and a training needs analysis or architecture or structure, what it gave me down here is not too bad. Like, I mean, there's some really good things that are in here based upon the information that I gave it. Again, there's room for improvement, and it's interesting to see how the model went in and did the chain of thought or thinking about the problem before actually giving me the training needs analysis. All right, so again, that is just a quick tour of the brand new O1 model. There's so much more to experiment with and try. I hope you have fun with it. I think that we're going to be seeing a lot of really new and unique solutions out there in the marketplace in regards to human performance because of this new capability. I'm excited about it. So I just want to thank you for taking the time and hanging with me here today. Wish you all the best, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care.